When I started working on the Prairie, I went over to the Morton Arboretum and I did some drawings, some studies, realistic studies. And then, as I was finishing up working on the drawings, the trees wound up becoming birds. And I thought, there I go again. I don't know what the thing is, but birds like enter into so much of my work. So, but I liked it. I liked the way it felt. And I thought, well, I'm just going to let it happen. Whatever happens, happens. So I started with the painting. I worked for, I think, about the first 4 months upstairs so that the lighting was great and I was out of the way. Coco was with me, my service dog, and it was really exciting because the kids and their parents would stop and they'd talk with me and they'd be like, oh, wait, is that a bird? Or a real little young child would see the frog and go, oh, frog. And so I was excited because it was so interactive. Like people were talking as they saw things appearing. Like in the beginning, the sky was clouds and it didn't have these birds in it. Slowly the birds began to evolve. Um, this was going to be a sunrise or sunset. Originally, I started out with that color in mind, and I thought, well, but I want to have blue skies and white clouds, but I want to have the greens of the daytime. And then I thought, well, this is my world. I'm creating it. I can do whatever I want. So then these colors became birds. So they represent the timelessness of knowledge. That no matter whether the sun's coming up or going down, there's always something to be learned. And then I started working on, this is actually inspired by the Prairie itself. And so as I was working on the Prairie, I started putting in the trees, and I put in a painted turtle over here. I like to hide things so that you really have to look for them. And that also goes in keeping with knowledge because sometimes it isn't obvious. Sometimes you really have to dig, you really have to look to be able to figure things out and learn things. And so there's a blue heron here, there are reeds, and there are birds like, even though this is a couple of trees, it's actually a bird with its head pointing down, drinking out of the water. There are lots of birds over there in the trees, and very often there's more than one bird. You'll see one bird, but there's actually, several, or it's part of another bigger bird. I had branches, and in the beginning, I think they were a little bit bigger, and they were also in the earth tones. I was just, in the beginning, going with the realism more. And I was actually not sure if I was going to put leaves in them, but I was just going with the branches. And then I thought, I'd really like to have some negative space up there, which means you have like a solid color so that the clouds stand out or the birds up here stand out. And somehow the branches became birds, and I decided not to put leaves in them because sometimes you learn. I didn't do this with the idea in mind, but later, afterwards, when I was looking at it and thinking about what it meant, I realized a lot of times we learn the most when things are the hardest, and so it might not be an easy time, and yet that's often when we get the strongest, those life lessons that really go deep. So, it's a continuation. They're strong trees. And then the birds up in the sky represent ideas. So no matter what we're learning from, whether it's nature, whether it's life, whether we're sitting looking at water and our stream of consciousness is just relaxed, no matter when we're learning, it all winds up tying together. When I first started working on the trees, they were bigger. They were in the brown family, warm tones usually. And then I thought, well, I'd like to experiment with the color, and I'd go in with like dark purples for the shadowing, and still I was staying with the warm tones of the rest of the trees, and I thought, actually, one of my friends said to me, I'm not sure if that is going to work because it might look scary in certain lights for the children. And I'm like, I never even thought of that. So I started looking at the painting in different lights in my studio. And sure enough, I thought, boy, that might look scary to kids. So I wanted the trees to not be that way. I made them smaller. And then I was actually going to go in with the purple again as the dark because I really liked that. And then I was just going to do this as a highlight and again bring in the earth tones or maybe some magenta. And I stepped back from it and I was like, oh, that's it. You know, it's friendly, it's inviting, but it sort of gives you that feeling of depth, you know, like you're looking into a scene. And believe it or not, the whole painting was, you know, it's always challenging because I never know what I'm doing. And but putting in the trees was the last really big challenging thing because everything looks so pretty and I didn't want to ruin it. But the original concept was to have the trees so that you feel like you're looking through. And again, that ties with knowledge, you know, that sense of looking through and discovery. So they became purple. And it turned out friendly and perfect.